Welcome to Tower Talk Business Radio on the voice of Nassau Community College 90.3 WHPC. Tower Talk Business Radio brings you conversations with the top business minds on Long Island and around the nation, including expert consultants and small business owners who have found success, but are also willing to share their top tips, failures, and give gritty, matter-of-fact advice based on their first-hand experience. And now, let's get down to business with Tower Talk Business Radio, powered by the Nassau Community College Foundation.
Hello and welcome to Tower Talk Business Radio, powered by the Nassau Community College Foundation. My name is Ray Schwetz, along with Denisha Boston-Hill, CEO, keeper of the brand marketing digital agency, and we're focused on being the premier resource for business and entrepreneurship. DB and I bring you weekly business advice, tips, tools, and services that help you grow your business while we interview the top business leaders in the industry. Now, today is a special episode of Tower Talk where we will chat with CPA Ken Cerini about one of his passion projects, which is the annual Long Island Imagine Awards. And before we jump into the topic, first a little bit about my friend Ken Cerini. So Ken is the managing partner of Cerini & Associates, LLP, and although his firm focuses on all areas, he personally works primarily with the nonprofit and educational providers. In addition to his extensive audit experience at both Ernst & Young and his own firm, Ken has been involved in providing consulting services for nonprofits and educational facilities of all sizes throughout New York. He's won numerous awards. He's been quoted in Newsday, Long Island Business News, the Long Island Press, the New York Times. He's the editor of 3 of 5 newsletters published in-house by the firm, including the Lesson Plan, written for school districts, the Special ED edition. There we go. Published for special education providers, and the NFP Advisor, which is written specifically for the nonprofit sector. In addition to that, we've just been talking about a web show that he also does. So you're quite a busy guy. Welcome to the show today, Ken.
Thanks a lot, Ray. Thanks for having me. You always want to make sure that you have your plate completely full, so that you have something to do.
Yeah. Yours is heaping. In a good way.
That's the way you want to be, though.
So I want to talk specifically about the Imagine Awards because that's such an amazing event. I still remember it like it was yesterday, even though it was 8 years ago now, right?
We're at our 7th annual.
Seventh
annual.
Okay.
But yeah, we've been, if you count all the planning time and everything, it's probably about 8 years. And you've been with it as part of the committee from the very beginning. So first of all, I thank you for that.
No, my pleasure. I've been blessed to be a part of it because it is such an amazing experience. But let's tell everybody out there how this got started.
The Imagine Awards was an idea that's probably about almost 20 years old now. It was something that I kind of thought would be there are awards programs for just about absolutely everything else. You name it, there's an award program for it. And you look at the nonprofit sector, a sector that does so much for everyone, and there was nothing out there for the nonprofit sector. And I was scratching my head like, how come there's nothing out here? The nonprofit sector, if they get it wrong, people don't eat, people don't have houses, people don't... It's just the incredible work that they do. There should be recognition for the sector. Mm-hmm. So the Imagine Awards came about because we wanted to create some way that for at least one night a year, the light shone back in on the nonprofit sector instead of them kind of doing work for everyone else.
Yeah. And I love that idea. And it's amazing being there. First of all, if you haven't been to the Imagine Awards, I would suggest that you attend, because not only is it amazing just to learn the work that these nonprofits do, but it's amazing to be a part of that networking experience.
Yeah, one of the reasons, as I said, that we set up was to shine the light back on the sector, but we also wanted to make sure that, we created an avenue for there to be collaboration within the sector.
Right.
So if you can put 400 or 500 people in a room that are focused on the nonprofit sector, and for one night they spent 4 hours, 5 hours just mingling and talking and getting to know each other and getting to understand what each one does and learning from each other, because that's another big aspect of it, education and learning. Yeah. If you can do that, the sector at the end of the day is going to be a much stronger sector. When you think about the nonprofit sector right now, there's so many changes that are happening in the sector. Mm-hmm. You're looking at greater challenges to bring in money. Mm-hmm. The government is really shrinking how much they're giving to the sector. Right. And when they do give it to them, they're saying, hey, you can't spend it on administration. You have to spend it on certain programming. It's never enough money. People or nonprofits are competing for the same tax donations. And with the change in the tax law, you're in a situation where, the tax law doesn't give as much avenues for, businesses or individuals to make contributions to the nonprofit sector. And when they do, they don't get the same tax deductions that they did in the past. So, you're in a situation where it's tougher. And then the nonprofits need to do so much more than they've had to do in the past because there's so many more people who need help. So you've got this sector that kind of is behind the eight ball to begin with. And, now you're in a situation where if you can put them in a room and they can start talking to each other and they can collaborate and they can, we've seen mergers coming out of, the Imagine Awards. We've seen new funding sources.
That's amazing.
So it's been incredible in terms of the impact in the 6 years, as this being the seventh, the 6 years that we've gone so far. And we're hoping that impact can continue.
Now, for someone who hasn't experienced the Imagine Awards, can you explain just how it works?
So it starts off in August of each year. So at the very end of August, beginning of September, we send out an application. It's not a difficult application. It should take an organization maybe 20 minutes to a half an hour to fill out. And really the goal of the application is, and there's 5 different categories. There's innovation. So that's for organizations that have an innovative program or a fundraising event or anything like that. We have social impact, which is, just as it sounds, organizations that are being impactful both on a micro and a macro level. Micro being, within the communities or the individuals that they serve, and macro being more of a global community, countrywide, whatever basis. We have a rising star, which is like social impact, but it's for smaller organizations. We felt that if you put small organizations against large organizations, the smaller organizations would have a tougher time winning.
Right.
So we set up social impact for smaller organizations in Rising Star, and that's under $2 million. We have leadership. For an effective leader within the nonprofit sector. And then we have arts and culture, because again, if you have health and welfare organizations and arts and cultural organizations, the health and welfare organizations tend to dominate over, not that arts and culture are not important, but, arts and culture versus feeding someone, there's a difference.
Right. Yeah, it does overshadow it. And honestly, though, I mean, for us to have a well-rounded community, all of that is very important. Yeah. So all of it should be recognized.
So we send out this application. Last year we got in this year, we got in 172 applications. There's a committee of 14 members, and the 14 committee members review the 172 applications. They go through them, looking at different criteria, and within each category, they boil it down to 7 semifinalists within each category. Those 7 semifinalists get interviewed by the committee, so that the committee members go out, they get to know the organizations better, they get to understand the operations of these organizations, and they kind of function as the advocates for those organizations. They do a separate write-up, and then those 35 applications and write-ups go to the judges panel, and there's an independent judges panel of 5, and they go through all of the applications for the semifinalists and decide who the 20 finalists are going to be, and ultimately who the 5 winners are. And that's all unveiled the night of the event. So none of the 20 finalists, they know they're finalists, but they don't know who won, and they won't know who won until the night of the event. So it's kind of like this Academy Award type thing,
right? Where
you've got all these videos and all this fun stuff going on, and then ultimately the winner is, and the envelope gets popped open, and the winner's announced.
That's very cool. You are listening to Tower Talk Business Radio on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm Ray Schwetz, and our guest today is Ken Cerini, CPA, Cerini and Associates, and chair founder of the Long Island Imagine Awards. Now, so you started to get into a little bit, but this is, first of all, I do a lot of networking. As do you. I would say that this is my top event of the year. And the reason that I feel that way is not just because I'm involved on a committee level, but just because it really truly is an event where it's amazing, because it's great networking. You see this collaboration. You feel an impact to the community, and it's emotionally rewarding. And I mean, I always tell people who come with me, bring some tissues. But can you tell us, like, what How does the night work? What's the flow of the night?
One of the things, and you talked about this being an effective or a great networking event. I think one of the reasons it's such a great networking event is the people are in the room for the right reason.
Right.
And I think that's what makes this very different from other networking events. You go to other networking events, people are in the room to kind of hand out their business cards and such. Here, people are in the room really to support the sector. Mm-hmm. People are in the room to really get to know each other. I mean, there are so many nonprofits. There's about 3,500 different nonprofits here on Long Island alone. So when you get the ability to talk to other agencies that you may not know or you may never have heard of, and you find out that they're doing some really cool stuff, mm-hmm. You kind of gravitate towards each other. So it really is cool because there's no agenda in the room. There's no, people going out and trying to sell each other. It's really people coming there to support each other. And it's a very different networking event. And it's also very different from like a fundraising event because it's not a fundraising event. You're not there with the expectation of having to give more money it's really to bring the sector together one night and really have the sector focus on itself. So, yeah. In terms of how the night flows, it starts off, as you said, with a networking section of it, because I think it's important for that collaboration to take place through conversation. And if it was just an award program and you didn't have that ability to have that conversation taking place, you just wouldn't really have the same feel for the event. So you have the networking section. Then we go into the main room and we start the awards. And as I said, it's kind of like an Academy Award type thing.
But a lot shorter than
yeah, very much so. And we're trying to make it actually even shorter to kind of shrink down the presentation amount of time because, like I said, the mm-hmm. ability for people to communicate and get to know each other, I think, is more important. Yeah. So we do things where we had videos produced for each of the 20 finalists. So the videos get shown in each of the, so let's say we're looking at the Rising Star category, the 4 finalists from Rising Star, their videos will go up on the screen. So everybody will get to see a 1-minute snippet or about a 1-minute snippet of what that organization is all about. And that's when you said earlier that, there's not a dry eye.
Oh, my goodness.
Many of these, some of them are, business-like, but again, when you're dealing with nonprofit organizations and the impact that they're having, and you get to see some of that impact, and you get to hear it from some of the consumers that are having the services performed for them.
Wow,
it's magical.
It is.
So that happens, and I think that's really cool because you get to really understand what these organizations are about in a 1-minute little composition, and those are the organizations. Then we give time in between the awards. So we do 3 awards, then we take a break, and we do another 3 awards. And I know I said before there are 5, but we've also added a fan favorite award to kind of give the ability for people to vote for the finalists that they like the best or they want to win. And there's a separate award for fan favorite. So we do 3 before the break and 3 after. We take a dinner break, and really the dinner break is to eat, but more importantly, it's to continue that networking that took place at the beginning, so that you can go and talk to some of the other agencies that are there. We have, it's easier to find them because we give little roadmaps we leave on the table for you to find where each of the different finalists are sitting, so everybody knows where everybody else is sitting, so they can go and get to meet them. You've seen the videos, so you get a good idea of what these organizations are all about.
Right.
And then we break for dinner. After dinner, we come back and we do the final 3. And then, again, at the end, there's additional time for networking after the event is over, so that, there are 3 really pockets for networking.
You are listening to Tower Talk Business Radio on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm Ray Schwetz, and our guest today is Ken Cerini, CPA, Cerini and Associates, and chair founder of the Long Island Imagine Awards.
I'm a college student and could use advice about my student loan.
I had to leave school and go to work. Now I have to pay back student loans for a degree I don't have. Fortunately, I found assistance.
Back in college, I figured they wouldn't lend me more than I could easily pay back. Boy, was I wrong. Thankfully, I got the help I needed to pay back my loan in full.
Sound familiar? The good news is that student loan repayment options are available. We're the NFCC, the National Foundation for Credit Counseling, a nonprofit organization with member offices nationwide that provide comprehensive financial reviews and student loan counseling. NFCC certified consumer credit counselors provide one-on-one financial counseling and can help you evaluate options for making student loan payments, reducing interest, debt consolidation, or even loan rehabilitation. Call 877-406-6322 or visit us online at studentloanhelp.org.
Hello and welcome back to Tower Talk Business Radio, powered by the Nassau Community College Foundation on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm your host, Ray Schwetz, and our guest today is Ken Cerini, CPA, Cerini Associates, and chair founder of the Long Island Imagine Awards. Now, Ken, we touched on something before, and I just want to bring it out a little bit more, I think, certainly for nonprofits and for pretty much everyone, but to me, I'll speak to some nonprofit people, and they'll be talking about the event, and they'll be talking about the potential to win, and although that's certainly motivation, it's a $5,000 prize, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, it's $5,000 for each one of the different categories. So it's in all in. It's since there are 5 categories, $25,000 plus an additional $2,500 for fan favorite.
Right, and so in addition to that, though, really. To me, and you say it during the event, and it's so true, everyone in the room is winners, because if you're a nonprofit and you're in that room, just being in that room is really the achievement, right?
I agree. I mean, one of the things that we find is just the ability to be in the room to, and not necessarily even be in the room as a finalist, just be in the room.
Right.
Because there's a lot of communication that takes place. There's a lot of people there who support the sector. Mm-hmm. So you want to be in the room. You want to really gain an understanding of what some of the other nonprofits are doing. There's some really cool stuff that's happening in the sector. Yeah. And unless you're paying attention, you're not necessarily seeing it. So I think part of, what the night does is it does spotlight some of the different things that members of the nonprofit sector are doing. I can also tell you that the year before last, one of the smaller nonprofits who showed up was sitting at the table with Teresa Regnanti from the United Way.
Yes.
And they struck up a conversation, and they're now funded every year by the United Way.
Wow.
So, there are people in that room that come there. They're from private foundations, or they're from United Way, or from other funding streams. And that doesn't mean that everybody's going to walk away, making a new contact for a funding stream. But again, I think it's important to learn. I mean, I learn from, other people in my industry all the time. And if you can kind of walk into a room where everybody's willing to share, and that night, and again, that's what makes it special. People are willing to share. They're there because they want to make the sector a stronger sector. So if you can get, and I shouldn't say if you can get into the room, because it's easy to get into the room. All you have to do is buy a ticket and come.
Right.
Or if you're a nonprofit and the $100 for a ticket is expensive, just reach out to us. I mean, they can reach out to me personally if they want. My number is 631-582-1600. My extension is 203. If they really can't afford the $100 ticket, we do have some individuals who have donated tickets to the organization, back to the Imagine Awards, that we can give away. So far this year, we've given away about 60 tickets to the event.
Wow.
And, if it means the difference between getting someone in the room and having them not come, I'll do what I can to try to get them into the room.
Yeah, and there are folks I know who are sponsors. Like, for example, NEFQ, we get a table, and I always invite a nonprofit to come with me because it's important that they experience that. And I don't think, it's something, it's an experiential, it's an experiential experience. But, I want to go back to one of the statistics that you gave me, because I was amazed when I first got involved that there are 3,500 nonprofits on Long Island. You don't realize that,
There actually may even be more than that, because you have all the religious organizations that don't even file tax returns. So, who knows what the real number is out there, but there are at least 3,500, and a lot of them are smaller. You're looking at probably about half of them generate under $1 million worth of revenue. So you've got a large base of very small organizations, and then got some mid-size and some very large ones. But the majority of the nonprofits on Long Island are small. So for them to be in a room with the big boys and some of the larger organizations and get to know them and get to spend some time with the executive directors, because a lot of the organizations that are there, the executive directors are the ones that are coming.
Right.
So to be able to spend some time with the executive directors and kind of pick their brain for a few minutes is incredible.
Now, I also want to bring up one of my favorite stories, and I think this was the very first Imagine Awards, and correct me if I'm wrong.
It was.
Okay, it was. So you know the story. I could tell you're smiling. So do you want to tell it?
That's fine.
All right.
So during the first Imagine, I've always wished this would happen again.
Yeah, me too.
But, lightning doesn't always strike twice. We had that first year, there was a private foundation in a room. I had no idea that they were even there.
Wow.
And at the break, I remember I said we break for dinner. At the break, the head of the private foundation came up to me and he said, we're new to the community. We've been trying to figure out who we wanted to fund within the community. And it looks like you guys have done all the heavy lifting and you guys have identified some of the best organizations on Long Island.
Wow.
What we'd like to do is we'd like to fund all of your finalists. And they gave $5,000 to each one of the 20 finalists. So that was an extra $100,000 that came into the Imagine Award fold, in essence, for that year. And we've had, since then, we've had people do one-offs where, there's been a few thousand here or 5,000 there to an organization, but we've never had that, hey, let me give, $100,000. So if anybody's out there and has $100,000 or more that they want to donate, like I said, these are some of the best of the best in the Long Island nonprofit scene.
You are listening to Tower Talk Business Radio on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. My name is Ray Schwetz, and our guest today is Ken Cerini, CPA, Cerini & Associates, and chair founder of the Long Island Imagine Awards. Now, with the 3,500 nonprofits that we have out there and the couple of hundred that wind up being involved in some way, shape, or form, what are some of the major stumbling blocks that we're seeing to get nonprofits in the room? Because, I think, for 10 years we've been building, for 10 years, for 8 years,
it feels like 10.
Happening. For 7 years of it happening, 8 years of planning, what are some of the things that we might want to say to some of the nonprofits out there who might have looked at this and might have not participated?
Yeah, well,
what would you say to them?
Again, a lot of times the things we hear is, only the big guys win, or, hey, it takes too long to do the application, or, we don't have the resources, or for some of the larger organizations, they're saying, well, $5,000 isn't a whole lot of money. Right. Again, it's not about the money. It's not about... It's about the experience. It's about the ability to collaborate. It's the ability to be educated. It's the whole night of just focusing on the sector itself. There aren't a lot of other avenues for this to happen, and not a lot of other avenues for you to be in a room where there are other people who are like-minded, who you can kind of really have that conversation that you can't really have in any other room. Mm-hmm. So for organizations to sit back and say, well, I'm not a finalist, I'm not going because it's only for the finalists. It's not only for the finalists, it's for everyone. The purpose and the reason that this was set up to begin with, yes, it's to spotlight the finalists and to give the finalists bragging rights for the year. But at the end of the day, it's really to spotlight the sector, and it's to bring everybody together all as one. And if you can get, I would love to have all 3,500 nonprofits in one place talking to each other and trying to figure out what they can do jointly. Because I think, too often you deal with competition, mm-hmm. and it's not competition. There should be collaboration. There should be ways that people can work together. Yeah. There are so many organizations out there that have, common threads through them and common thought process and common ideas and, common consumers that they work with, that if you could actually find ways to, for them to work together, costs would go down, delivery of service would improve, the sector would be stronger. And that's really what we're hoping to happen. So, it should be, not the question is, why shouldn't I be or why should I be in the room? It's why shouldn't I be in the room? I mean, there's no reason why you shouldn't be in the room. You really should be in that room.
Yeah, I agree. And, it's interesting because so many people, we live in an age where a lot of folks are divided over so many things and over the bigger picture. But at the end of the day, and it's something I say to my daughter all the time, if you really want to make an impact, focus on the smaller things that you can do, and the smaller thing is still large. It's the community. It's putting in with the community. It's being involved, and it's contributing in some way, and it's getting to know things. And I know just me participating on the committee for a number of years. Every year I fall in love with a new nonprofit and I get involved in some way.
I can tell you that there are some nonprofits that I have never heard of before this event, and in January of this year, one of the organizations that we met over the years through the Imagine Awards, an organization called Book Fairies.
Yes.
They're an incredible organization, and I'd never heard of them before the Imagine Awards. And when the application first came in, I'm like, what is this? What do they, And then I got to read it, and I got to know them, and I got to meet Amy, who founded the organization.
She's awesome.
I fell in love with the organization. And, we've now made a commitment as a firm that for every billable hour of service we have as a firm, we are going to help put a book in the hands of a child.
Right.
And that collaboration occurred because Amy applied for the Imagine Awards, and she stuck with it and kind of came and got involved. And
and she didn't win right away, right? She applied.
I don't think she's ever won.
Yeah. So there you go. I mean,
but the amount of money we're giving her is a hell of a lot more than she would have got from the Imagine Awards.
Absolutely.
And it's those connections. It's the ability to meet people. It's the ability to, again, it's a room of people who are already hooked on the sector.
Right.
I mean, where do you find a room of people that you don't really know who already believe in what the nonprofit sector does?
Right. We're all united in that belief. We're all there for that reason. So what would be the one thing you'd want to tell someone out there about the Imagine Awards? What's the one thing you want to leave people with?
Again, you got to be part of it. You got to participate in whatever aspect that is. I mean, like anything else, if you're not in it, you can't win it. And again, it's not about winning the award. It's about being part of a community. It's about being part of, the sector. It's about, again, I don't want to keep harping on the fact that you should be in the room, but I need to keep harping on the fact that you should be in the room. Because, again, that's where the magic happens. And if you're not in the room, then, there's no fairy dust for you. Sorry.
Yep, I agree. Just show up, as John Kasich said the other day. I saw him speak, and that was something that stuck me. Just show up. And
again, if you want more information, you can go to Imagine Awards LI. So it's ImagineAwardsLI.com. If the price tag of $100 is too steep for a nonprofit organization, just reach out to us either through Imagine Awards LI or like I said, call me, 631-582-1600. extension 203, and I will do what I can to make it available for you. I believe in the sector, and I believe in getting people in the room.
Excellent. Ken, thank you so much. We really appreciate you being with us today for this special.
Thanks, Ray, for having me here.
Yes, this is our special Imagine Awards episode. Very excited. Make sure that you go online. Again, what is that website? It's ImagineAwardsLI.com. All right. Make sure you go there. Make sure you get your tickets. The event is April 30th at the Crest Hollow. Excellent, excellent. So I want to end today by leaving you with a quote from Malloy's Coach Farrell, a quote from Malloy's a quote from Malloy's College's Coach Farrell. If it is to be, it is up to me. We want to thank you for being with us today. My name is Ray Schwetz, along with Denisha Boston Hill, your co-host and producers. The creative director of Tower Talk Business Radio is Rudy Breedy. This is an NCC Foundation Business Leaders Council production. Visit ncc.edu/WHPC for more information. Available on iHeartRadio as a podcast on iTunes, Android Podcast, and Spreaker. This has been Tower Talk Business Radio, powered by the Nassau Community College Foundation on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. We'll talk with you next week.